Alright guys, welcome back to the Anonymous Miner channel, and today I want to talk to you about helium antennas and exactly what that is. What are you doing with helium antennas, and why doesn't it come with the antenna that you need? I mean, I just bought this $400 miner. That's what I believe DJ Mines keeps saying, and chump change, and I understand that, but I also want to say that, because each situation is different, and we'll get into that, you need to be able to get the right antenna for your situation. And so because of that, they gave you an antenna with your helium miner that should work for most people, kind of. And that's as best as they could do because there are so many factors for this. So how do I figure out what antenna I need for my hotspot and where I am located as far as geographically? Well, to get into that, we need to first talk about what you're doing with this antenna to make sure that we're all on the same page. So this is basically a game of Marco Polo, if you will. You're calling out Marco and you expect the other person to say Polo, and if you can't hear them, then we're not playing the game, right? Or it's not really fun, or whatever you want to say about that, but that's what this is. This is Marco Polo. You are playing Marco Polo with other helium hotspots, and that's how you make money, is listening and talking to these other helium hotspots. You got to play the game. So with these antennas and getting the right antenna, you can broadcast what you need to these other hotspots. And so one of the first things that I want to bring up is this guy right here. This guy, his name is Nick Hawks. Okay, his name is Gristle King. He is in the Helium Discord. I will leave links to the Helium Discord down below. But he's written this wonderful article about your helium hotspot antenna. So there's a couple of good points in here that I want to point out. He talks about geographically placing your antenna properly. Like, for example, you can see these green spots right here are mountains. And so the idea is, if I have a hotspot here and my antenna's right here, the antenna or my calling out of Marco Polo, you're not going to hear it over these mountains. So it's about line of sight as well. So that's what we're going to start talking about, is line of sight and how you can actually see another hotspot with your antenna. And by doing so, you can listen to them and talk to them. Again, that's what this is all about. So going down through this article more, he makes some really good points. I will leave a link to this article down below. He's a very smart guy. I am no expert or even that smart in this, but I did learn quite a bit hopping down this rabbit hole. So going down here, there's a couple more things I really wanted to talk about. He's showing this, where you're witnessing other hotspots and talking to them. And he says, bringing us to elevation. So that's one thing. The higher up you are, he's drawn this great picture, you can talk better to other hotspots. So if you're up on top of a mountain, for example, you can talk down to the other ones, and they can talk up to you, and that works pretty well. So now he's showing a picture here in this article of gain, and he's got these different red cones, and that's the broadcasting waves. And so now let's actually bring up another picture. So now that you will see, when you start looking at your antennas, all these different dBi ratings. So what exactly is that? Well, here's a nice picture. The dBi changes this cone right here, this effective signal coverage. You see that right there? And so this cone changes depending on your dBi, and it'll be somewhere in between here. If you can find like a 10, it'll be a little bit skinnier of a cone, right? But you also notice this broadcast range, so that brings up another picture. Let me get this guy out. Now look at this. So a 3 dBi antenna technically can only broadcast about 20 miles. So I mean that's pretty far. That is a pretty long distance, and that's a low, quote-unquote, low dBi gain antenna. Now as we get higher, you can theoretically, and I say theoretically again because it's line of sight, and there's a lot of stuff that can affect that, about 80 miles with a 15 dBi antenna. So those things can really affect the signal. But the other thing that I like to show, there's another photo, is this. So just because you can broadcast further, it doesn't mean that's a better antenna. So look at this. In the city, for example, where all these hotspots are around, right? this 2 dBi antenna, because it's broadcasting more of a bubble. Remember that first picture that I showed? Let me bring that back up. Look at this bubble. It's 360-degree bubble, right? That is better because it's broadcasting down and around as this hotspot in my other photo, right? And it can reach these other 4 and witnessing them, right? As where this other one, this 9 dBi antenna, broadcasts right over and kind of catches 1 right here, and not even, I mean, you kind of caught it, but not really. That looks like it's half in, half out, which means sometimes you might not witness it. So now, let's go back all the way. What are you talking about witnessing? Well, let me pull this up now. This is an app called Hotspot. It's a great app. You can learn a lot from this. And again, I'll be leaving links for everything that I'm showing here down below. So, rewards. HIP 15 rewards up to 5 reward units for a proof of coverage challenge. So the transmitting hotspot earns between 0 reward units, no witnesses, and 1.99 reward units for 18 plus witnesses. So your goal is to always have at least 18 other hotspots hearing you. That is where you're going to maximize your rewards. So how do you figure out, again, what you need and where you're going to go with all these antennas? Well, there's still more we're going to talk about here. One more thing is about the antenna and how far you can actually shoot it. So we talked about a couple miles, but listen to this right here about what Nick is saying. That means if you're inside a building, you've already burned most of the energy. And what he's talking about is up above. They actually talked about this paper where he quoted it earlier, and how much the RF energy, radio frequency, RF is radio frequency, energy in a given building material would absorb. So like, it depends on if it's, basically the harder it is, the more it's going to bounce it off, and the softer it is, the more it will absorb, because it's radio, right? So especially if you have your like hotspot sitting in your studio like I'm sitting in now, and you have all the sound deadening equipment and stuff on the walls, that's going to affect it. So you need to think about this stuff. And what he's talking about here is that means that if you're inside the building, right, because he's saying you can make it through about 2 buildings, right? Our Helium hotspot owners won't blast more than 2 buildings. So if you're inside a building, you've burned half your power getting just out of the building you're already in. So you need to get this antenna up on the roof, or basically as high as you can get it, at least outside, so that you're not losing your broadcasting signal strength, right? And then you need to figure out also your dBi. And again, there is more than just what I've shown you so far. So let's get into some hotspots. So this is one hotspot that Nick calls out in his paper back there, if you want to read further. And that paper is very informative. There's a lot more in there than I got into just now. But basically, he's talking about this hotspot right here. And he says that this is on top of a very tall building. And you can see here, it actually shows it's at 57 meters of elevation. 57 meters, about 3 feet in a meter. So we're talking about 150, almost 200 feet in the air, right? And then it says it's a 7 dBi antenna. And it's broadcasting out. It has 120 witnesses. Look at that. And then its earnings over the last 30 days is $1,259. And so this is how you're going to make a bunch of money, again, as you have all these witnesses and you're able to talk to as many hotspots as you possibly can. So the easiest way to do that, if I refer back to this paper, if you don't want to get into anything else, all you got to do is, if you just want an answer right now, you buy this antenna that Nick lists. If I click on this link, it takes me over to this antenna right here. You can buy this antenna, and with everything I've showed you so far, you can see this antenna specifically broadcasts stuff all over. They call it a full radiation pattern. It's a bit different than what we've talked about so far. You can just buy this full radiation pattern antenna, stick it on your roof or wherever you can get it as high as possible, and you'll be doing most, if not all, of what you can do with some other stuff. But if you want to sit there and tinker with it, like I like to do with my graphics cards when I'm mining, this is just another thing I'm tinkering with, and you can figure all that out. So there's a couple more tools I want to go over real quick. This is actually my hotspot where I've gotten it so far. I'm up to 90 witnesses now, out of 258 days of beacons, so I'm sending out beacons. Okay. I have made a decent amount of helium. I don't want to get too much into it because you guys will be able to find me. So, this is all going to get blurred out, by the way. I'll remove that probably on YouTube. But, anyways, this is my actual hotspot. I'm up to 90 witnesses. I'm still working on it. There's a couple more things I'm going to do. We'll see what I can get it up to. And then, here's another hotspot I found near me. It's up in the Santa Clarita Mountains. It's just up above. So this is Los Angeles. I live down here, somewhere near Long Beach. And if we go in, this guy is talking to 139 other hotspots. And that is crazy. He's made $2,000 in the past 30 days. So that's pretty good. He's up in the mountain, so he's got a transmit scale of 1.0 because he's by himself. And that's amazing. So that's what we're going for. And then there's another hotspot here. So this hotspot is actually in Massachusetts. This is not somebody I know, but it's near someone that I know. So this hotspot in the last 30 days, it's been online for 2 months, and it's made 0.73 helium in the past 30 days. So that's like $25. That's not very good. So if we click on this, you've got one witness. You're talking to the hotspot right next to you. And this one over here can't even hear you still. So that's pretty bad. I'm going to say a 2.3 dBi antenna at 6 meters, it's probably inside the house. So this is where the walls are going to cut out half that signal and you're not going to be able to broadcast to anybody. Now, with this specific hotspot, again, I don't know this person. I looked for a hotspot to show you guys. Look at this. So this one's right here, right? Okay, now let me click on this one here. This one's made 20 helium in the past 30 days. Let's look at that real quick. $1,000 in the past 30 days. And look at this. It's because he's talking to 40 witnesses. That's how you're going to make all the money right there. The more witnesses you can get, the higher you're going to get on that reward scale up to that 5. Let me go back over there. So the transmitting hotspot earns between 0 reward units, nothing, no witnesses, and 1.99 reward units for 18 plus witnesses. So you're trying to get up to that 5 reward unit. So, and then when you witness others, when you hear others calling out Marco Polo, remember, then that hotspot, you're going to earn a reward unit, 1 reward unit, up to 4 witnesses, and 0.12 reward units for 18 plus witnesses. So the more hotspots that can hear you as well, you're witnessing. So this is again where the rewards are going to come in. So you really got to try and broadcast as far as you can. Now let me get back to there again. Okay, this one. So this one is right next to that one. So you can already tell that this person did not optimize their antenna. Look at this. Again, they're talking to one hotspot, the one next to them, and they're right next to each other. So now, if you didn't have this obvious setup where it's like the person next to you is just broadcasting way further, right? And look at this too. It says it's 1.2 dBi at 0 meters. I don't believe that. Look at how far away you're broadcasting to this one over here. There's no way you're still on a stock antenna. But I digress. Let's return to what I was talking about. So if I want to come in here and I want to find out, okay, well, my antenna sucks, obviously, because I'm only making 0.73 HNT, and look at all these hotspots around me that I could be talking to. But maybe not. Maybe they can't hear me calling Marco. Why? Well, first of all, I'll bet, again, this person has their antenna inside the house or behind a screen or something else, and they're losing half their antenna power. But the other thing is, maybe they're not in the line of sight. Again, maybe they're on the other side of that mountain. Let's go back to that reference, okay? Again, right here. So maybe they're right here, and their friend is over here, and they're able to talk to everything around here, right? Because of where their antenna is. So how do I figure that out? Well, there is a tool. Let me show you this tool. This tool right here is pretty cool. This is my hotspot, right? So I'm somewhere, again, right here near Long Beach, Anaheim area, and I can actually reach Santa Clarita. Look at that. And Santa Clarita, it's a distance of 67 kilometers, and there's only one little hill. It's that right there between where I'm trying to broadcast to. So another example of this is where we just were. And so there's 2 ways to enter your information here. You can either look up your latitude and longitude, Or what I actually did is I sat there and I started zooming in and zooming in. So let me zoom in a little bit more, right? Right? Okay. So now this is what I did. Right here, I went and I just started zooming in until I found the city and everything else. And then I found Concord and Sudbury streets, right? Now let's go back to my hotspot. My hotspot, Concord and Sudbury, right there. So this is that one that's broadcasting all over the place, and this is the one that I'm trying to look at. So right there on this little cul-de-sac looking thing on Stonehill Road, that's where we're going to go back to RF. Right? Oh, excuse me. There we go. Okay, so it's somewhere like, again, right in here. So we're going to drop that one point here. And then we're going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to try and find out where I'm broadcasting to. So I already chose a spot, but let me show you how I found it. So I found this weird shaped lake. It's got an airport in it. It's called Crow Island. So there's this weird shaped lake. I really like water if you can find it. It helps a lot. So got this weird shaped lake here. Again, I'm going to come over here. How did I find it? Well, I started zooming out on this explorer.helium.com app, which I really like. There's also this hotspotty one that I was on before, but it lags really bad. It's got a lot more information, but it lags really bad. So now, back to what I was saying. Okay. Right here, we have that weird shaped lake. There it is. So there's another hotspot right here, and it's in this little loop-de-loopy thing somewhere in there, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to RF tool, and where is the loop-de-loopy thing? Did I actually drop it? Yeah, I dropped it in the wrong spot. It's actually right over here. Okay. So there's that loop-de-loopy thing, and there's that weird shaped lake, and look at that. So I can actually talk to that hotspot. So now I have proven, let me zoom out a little bit, right? Even though they're 5.737 kilometers apart, I know you can't play Marco Polo that far, but this radio antenna can. And so what I've checked now is I've seen between this hotspot here that I found on the Helium Explorer app, let's go back over there. So this one with the weird shaped crowfoot lake or whatever it is, I can talk between there and the one that I have highlighted right here. So that's already one hotspot that I know I could get to witness me. And I only have one witness so far, again, this witness right here, and I should almost definitely be able to get this one right here. So no matter what, even if your geography is bad, if you were to set up like this person should be witnessing this and this. This automatically tells me that one or both of these have bad antenna placement. So it's really important if you're going to be making any money to get the right antenna. Now, I know it's kind of a stickler that you don't get the right antenna. It should come with the right antenna, blah, blah. Okay, I understand. But this is all the factors that you have to understand is what antenna is best for you. Are you just trying to reach the little bit of hotspots that are around you in a little circle here? Or am I trying to reach that hotspot that's over there? And that's where, in this situation, I would recommend this person, if they can, gets their hotspot antenna up on the roof. It looks like there aren't very many houses here, so it's probably one of these houses, and they're pretty separated. I can't see them being, like an HOA or anything, but anyways, they should get an antenna. I would recommend like a 6 dBi antenna, 6 to 8, somewhere in there, because of all these hotspots around them, all right? And then you can also go check these hotspots. So can I talk to these hotspots down here? Well, again, I cheated. Right? If I click on that hotspot right next to them and I click on it, it shows me they're talking to a bunch of these hotspots, right? And look at all these hotspots that they're able to reach over here. So again, if I were to sit here with this RF tool, I could show you guys, because these are the mountains here and the elevation of what is between the two locations that I chose, I can show you why they're able to play Marco Polo between those two spots, right? But that is something that I want you to do in your location and check out what antenna works for you best. And that's where I'm going to start showing you some antennas. So one of the coolest things I've seen is one of my subscribers sent me a picture of his antenna, and it was on top of one of these 25-foot flagpoles. So he bought a $90 flagpole. Again, that, I mean, some of us can't afford that. I understand, but at the same time, when you got a hotspot that's making, you know, $2,000 a month, depending on the antenna that you have, it might be worth it. And again, I mean, this is a very dense area. They got a lot of people that they could talk to, but that is where an antenna comes in. So that one antenna that I showed you, this one is $150. That's that weird multiple polarization, full radiation pattern antenna, and you can see it bounces all over the place. This is the one that was recommended by Nick if you're just trying to figure out what'll work and you don't really want to deal with anything. So this is one that I would recommend. If you don't really want to think about it, just get that. You'll be okay. There are other antennas. This is all the miners that are for sale, and it's crazy the pricing now. I would be very careful about buying antennas like this off of eBay. That being said, I did buy one off eBay, and it's working pretty well, but I also bought another one. I was looking at these rack wireless antennas, right? And there's a 5.8 dBi antenna. That would be great for the house that we were looking at, or an 8 dBi antenna. That would also be great. And then you can mount them in different ways. There's a lot of different things you can do. There's that antenna. The minted hotspot is going to be dropped soon, so you should go look at that. As of recording this, we got 2 days and 20 hours. And this is actually the antenna that I already bought. So this is the one that is making me decent money right now, but I think I can do better. And it's a 10 dBi antenna. So I went above what I actually think I need after I've done a bunch of research on these antennas. So I dropped it down to a 6 dBi. Yes, so 6 dBi right here. I got it on this website called FizzTech, and these are what is called tuned antennas. So they've actually hooked up each individual antenna and tested that they are broadcasting a signal properly, because again, it's all about how well you can play Marco Polo. How well can I yell out Marco? You know, when I was a kid, I used to cup my hands around my mouth, put my hands around my mouth to project it. And I'm sure you can hear my voice just change with me cupping my hands like this versus this. And if I cup my hands again, right, and I'm talking with my hands cupped, and then I remove them, I can broadcast that signal a lot further where you can hear it. So that is kind of the idea behind having a really nice antenna, or an antenna that you know is going to work, is you want to make sure it's actually doing what you expect it to do. Some cheap antennas, you don't know what you're getting. So I got this one. These ones are actually tested, tuned to make sure that they're 6 dBi or 8 dBi or whatever you're going to purchase. I got the 6 dBi because, again, I have a lot of hotspots around me, so I don't want to narrow my cone too far. That cone I'm talking about is here. I don't want to narrow my cone too far. I want to stay between this 40 degree and 30 degree, so I'm going to probably be about, the math says about 35, but I don't know if that's a linear change between the two. So 35-ish degree broadcasting signal. So we're going to do that. Hopefully that works out for me a little bit better. I do already have quite a few witnesses at 90, but I'm trying to bump it up more to get that full reward every time. So that's everything that I know about antennas today, guys. Thank you for tuning into the Anonymous Miner channel. If you guys would like to share what antenna you guys have down below, I would greatly appreciate that. That's awesome. And if it's been working for you, also if you could like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, I would also really appreciate that. Have a great day, everybody, and I will see you on the next one. Real quick, guys, one thing I forgot to talk to you guys about is cabling. So how far can you run a cable? Do you have to put your miner up on the roof? Do you need an enclosure to use all these antennas that I was talking about? Because I kept recommending that you get it outside. That's the main thing. And then you get it on the roof if you can, or as high as you can. And then based off of that and how far away other hotspots are, you choose your dBi, or how far you can broadcast, right? So, cabling. I personally used a 32.8 foot or 30 meter, or I'm sorry, 10 meter? 10 meter? 10 meter. A 10 meter cable, or 32.8 feet and that went through my wall. I poked a hole, I put it through my wall, and I ran it up to the roof. And that's where my antenna is. So my miner is inside. I just sealed the hole with a little bit of putty, like plaster, and I was done. So, what kind of cables can you use? Well, if you're going to go that far, you need to use an LMR 400 or 600 cable, and that is the rating of the cable here. And some of them are pretty expensive. You can get different ones here. I would recommend making sure you get one that has some reviews to it, though. Like this one has 218 reviews right here. So get it from a reputable source, or get one that has a lot of reviews that's good. Okay, you don't want to mess around. The ones that I've seen work are the ones with these ends right here. This one is generally the right end for most of the miners, the helium miners, and this is generally the right end for all of the aftermarket antennas that I was showing. So you need to make sure you get the right ones. Check your connectors. Don't just go willy-nilly unless you get a specific antenna kit like I was showing. The rack wireless kit will fit most of the things. The kit that I bought from eBay that I showed will fit. It does work. But make sure you get that LMR 400 cable or 600 cable if you're going to go more than like a couple of feet even. So don't cheap out on the cable. That will affect your broadcasting ability and your ability to play that Marco Polo game. And then also with that LMR 400 cable or whatever cable you use, you want to make sure that you don't kink it because it's a solid core cable. It has like a solid piece of copper through it, or depending on what cable you get, it should be copper to carry the signal properly. And as a result, if you kink it, you're going to have either no signal or limited signal, or you're going to hinder it in some way. You really don't want to kink it or bend it or even go around any sharp corners with it. You want to make sure it's kind of smooth, and if it comes rolled up, you don't want to bend it any further than the bends that are in that roll that it came in. So make sure that you do those things when you run your cable up to your antenna, because again, you don't need to put it outside. If you do, you should put it in an enclosure. You should put a fan on that enclosure for the summertime because it will get hot, and you need to take care of that. So that's something you need to look at depending on where you are. And depending on where you are, you may not even be able to put an antenna on your roof because of an HOA or something like that. But you could also go to that rack wireless store. Let me pull that up 1 second. No, rack wireless right here. So they sell things at this rack wireless store like to mount your antenna. I saw some suction cup stuff earlier. Let me see if I can find it. I don't see it. Here's your enclosures, though. Here's your antennas. And they had, I could have sworn I saw a suction cup thing. And then the other thing you need to consider, too, if you stick a antenna on your roof, is if you have thunderstorms, you should ground that antenna. You don't want to get a lightning strike, especially it could destroy your miner, your antenna. It could destroy your home. You don't want to do any of that stuff. So make sure you take care of yourself as far as that goes. Anyways, thanks guys again for tuning in to the Anonymous Miner channel, and have a good one.